Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Howdy ho. Thank you, Ed Garvey. He was actually polite in the introduction. That's astonishing. Hello, Wisconsin. Good to be with you. What a joy. It just makes me happier than a red robin to come bobbing along here to Baraboo, Wisconsin for the annual Bob Fest blowout. And of course, I do come to you from Texas, no longer the state of Texas, though. Thanks to our Republican governor, who, by the way, puts the goober in gubernatorial, we are now the secessionist Republic of Republican Ridiculousness, or Absurdistan, as we call it, down home. But it is a true joy to be back here with all you good folks. And let's give a big thanks again to the volunteers who give their time, their energy, their creativity to make this possible. And especially a big roaring thank you to our own ringmaster of this circus, Eduardo the Great Garvey. What a man. I said last night at an event that Ed's a big man here in Wisconsin, but those of us who know him know that if you rendered the BS out of him, he'd fit in a matchbox. But especially thanks to all of you. You really are Bobfest, just as you really are the embodiment of our democracy. Somebody asked me a while ago, well, what is it that you like about this event? And I said, it's not an event. It's not a thing. It's not a one-day fair. It's a democratic phenomena, an organic movement, an idealistic possibility through which we outsiders and rank-and-filers, we mavericks and mutts, might empower ourselves to take our country back from the bosses and banksters, the big shots, the bastards, and the bullshitters who always feel privileged to run right over us. Some people I know say, oh, well, we can't make a difference. We're too small. We have no power. Well, buck up. Just remember this, even the smallest dog can lift its leg on the tallest building. Carry that one home with you. We can do it if we team up. You know, they say the first job of a citizen is to keep your mouth open. But it helps if that mouth is attached to a brain. And that's what Bobfest does. It brings us together to gain a bit of illumination and invigoration, to strategize and mobilize so we can link our brain power to mouth power, and through that to political power. I compare Bobfest to a hardware store right near my home in Austin, Texas. It's a great store, tiny place, but great service. They will work with you. You don't have to buy a whole box of nails. They'll sell you a nail. You know, they'll work with you. What are you trying to build? Well, I'm trying to build this lectern here. Well, let's pencil it out and see what you need. They'll loan you a tool. You can take it home and bring it back. And the slogan at Harold's Hardware is, together we can do it yourself. Now that's got to be our slogan, doesn't it? We can't do it ourselves, but together we can. So speeches are one thing here at Bobfest, but the real action is in these breakout sessions that you've held, the organizational tables that are over here in the hall that'll connect you with everything from local food co-ops to national groups like Progressive Democrats of America, who is here today, as well as spend time over there in the beer hall. I do. You get your brats and your brewskis over there, great local stuff, but also get that music, and more importantly, you get that little conversation going. You get to rub up against each other and get to know each other and really have discussions. Now, isn't this a better way to do politics than just go to lectures and committee meetings? I mean, let's put the party back in politics. That's the motto of Bobfest. And I think you need to carry it forward out of here. It's not just an annual gathering. Create your own. Have potluck suppers in your community. Remember those? You know, people are busy, they can't do politics, they've got kids, they've got this and that. Well, everybody brings a little bit and you get together once a month or something. and some group is in charge of raising some issue. And then you got a little bit of music there, and again, that wine and the beer. You got to lubricate the movement, you know, at all times. And people do get to know each other, and then it becomes a movement. And the next month, it's on another side of town, and people there are hosting it and talking about their issues. So we get connected by that. You don't have to wait on somebody else to get us together. You can get people together. Have those coffee clatches that you might have down at the Chat and Chew Cafe, you know. Instead of having small talk, have some big talk every now and then. Talk about some single-payer healthcare issue or something like that. Get some discussions going. Well, this afternoon I want to use my time to talk with you about where we are. And I know some of you are saying, well, Hightower, we're in Baraboo, Wisconsin. Well, no. I mean, where are we politically? Well, we should be in great shape, right? We've got Obama in the White House. We've got the Democrats in control of both houses of Congress. We won, didn't we? Well, not yet. What we won last year, and remarkable victories, by the way, and we deserve to wallow in that victory. What we won, though, was not progressive change, but the chance to make the change. And I got to tell you, I did have mixed emotions in January 20th when I watched the television of Obama being sworn in, that great scene of millions of people there. And, you know, they say mixed emotions is when you see your 16-year-old daughter come home from the prom with a Gideon Bible under her arm. Some of y'all been there. Well, on the one hand, here's a great guy with good roots, good instincts, not only campaigning for change, but having a constituency broad-based in America that's for the change. But on the other hand, there are those hard realities that he would face inside Washington, the forces of avarice and arrogance, the forces of inaction and ignorance. Just mentioned 3 of them, 13,000. That's how many corporate lobbyists there are in Washington, D.C. 13,000 every single day, every night, working to kill reform. They jump on reform like an alligator on a poodle, you know. It's just... Second force that he's facing there is that foot-dragging, Obama-hating, right-wing, Rush Limbaugh-pandering Republican bunch whose sole goal is to make Obama fail. That's all it is. The third force, though, is a gaggle of weak-kneed, pusillanimous, corporatized Democrats. We have some great Democrats. You heard a couple of them here today, more than a couple, in fact. Bernie Sanders and Tom Harkin in Washington, so many others right here. But we've got too many Max Baucuses, you know, who want to give everything away right at the top. They're weaker than Canadian hot sauce when it comes to standing up for working people. Well, my message to you, and I'm sure you're wondering what it might be, is that we cannot now just crank back in the lazy boy and do some 12-ounce elbow bends. Saying, oh, Obama's in there now, he'll take care of it. Our grassroots agitation, our organizational aggressiveness is more essential now than it ever has been. We have got to be the force. I think it's now clear to just about everybody that Obama is only going to be as good as we make him be. For some odd reason, the guy who won by running from the outside is trying to govern from the inside. That's almost impossible if you're a candidate of change. Woodrow Wilson said, if you want to make enemies, try to change something. Well, thus far, Obama seems so worried about making enemies that he's not making change. Now, I can tell you from experience that despite what the Buddhists say in politics, change does not come from within. It comes from rallying the outsiders to battle the insiders. As a friend of mine once put it, he said, Hightower, never hit a man with glasses. Use something heavier. George Bernard Shaw Said you don't make progress by standing on guard, but by attacking and getting well hammered yourself. And the fact that I used to be 6'5" will give you some idea of some of the fights that I've been in, but I'll tell you about one of those fights. The difference between inside and outside. When I was agriculture commissioner down in Texas, elected 2 terms there, much to the amusement of the people. One of the things that made that office attractive was that it was the pesticide regulator for the state of Texas. And we thought, well, having the power, let's do something different, let's try to use it. Never been done. So we did. We proposed and implemented the most comprehensive pesticide regulations of the time. And that PO'd Dow Chemical, Monsanto, and all the rest of those boys. So they went to the Republican governor, who hated me. Hated me in part because when he was running for re-election, I accused him of having a DWI. I said he'd been driving while ignorant 4 years in office. And so he backed their bill, and they were prepared to ram this thing through on an inside deal. So they called the House hearing, had it in a little committee room, but they had to move from the committee room because so many people showed up for the hearing. They had to move it to the House chamber, and they filled the House chamber. My first witness was Willie Nelson. My second witness was Barbara Jordan. And my third witness was the chairwoman of the Dallas Republican Party, because Republicans don't like their children eating pesticides. Amazing. And at the end of that hearing, because of the public scrutiny from the outside, the insiders would not even make the motion to pass this bill to restrain me and to move the Pesticide Authority out of that office. Yet today, not only is Obama sticking with the inside game, but so are too many of our progressive organizations, particularly those in Washington, big organizations. Don't push, they tell us. He's doing the best he can. We have to compromise. Give him room. Go along with the strategy. Be quiet. Be quiet? Holy Thomas Paine. Holy Mother Jones. Holy Bob La Follette. Since when have progressives won anything by cowering in quietude? Since January, we've been quiet. And while we were quiet, Wall Street bankers pulled off the biggest bank robbery in American history. While we were quiet, the single-payer health care plan, Medicaid for all, the plan that would actually work, was taken off the table by feckless Democrats who are now trying to kill even the modest public option reform. While we were quiet, Afghanistan became Obama's war, exploding into a blood-sucking, money-sucking nightmare with no clear purpose and no known end. Our quietude on this one, by the way, has left the great Russ Feingold out there on his own. While we were quiet, Van Jones got thrown under the bus to appease a bunch of right-wing nutballs. And the progressive ideal of green jobs economy is now in danger. While we were quiet, 5 right-wing activist judges on the Supreme Court have just made this week an audacious, outrageous, unprecedented power play to allow a tsunami of corporate money to pour into our elections. I'm talking Scalia, Alito, Roberts, Kennedy, Thomas. Those are the 5. Randy Newman once said, the singer-songwriter, said he could not understand how the only 2 tight-assed Italians in America both got on the Supreme Court. Well, I've written about this. There's been very little media attention to it, but I've written about it in my last issue of the Hightower Lowdown because it's so important. These 5 men, 5, not a Congress, not a president, not a vote of the people, 5 men are about to overturn 100 years of precedent. They will radically revise our politics by allowing corporate executives to dip not into their own pockets to give money to candidates, but to dip into the corporate treasuries themselves and use that corporate money to spend unlimited amounts of it to elect or defeat candidates of their choosing. This means, for example, Russ Feingold here, who is not exactly beloved by the military establishment, not beloved by Blackwater, Halliburton, Lockheed Martin, the contractors. They then could target Russ Feingold and spend $100 million of corporate money, $200 million, $500 million of the corporation's money. That doesn't belong to the executives. That belongs to shareholders who don't share the political agenda of those executives. That belongs to workers. That belongs to consumers. They would take our money under the Supreme Court ruling. It is a corporate wet dream that they have dreamed up here. So why are we going along with all this? Even a dead fish can go with the flow, right? We can no longer be quiet. Au contraire, as they say out in Lubbock. It's time for us to get quite noisy. First of all, we have no right to be quiet. Too much is at stake. Too many people will pay too high of a price if we don't stand up, speak out, and push back. Second, we have a special responsibility at this time to become the outside counterforce to the insidious insiders. This time, this very moment in our history is uniquely important because we actually have a chance to produce change. The public is for it. We do have a Congress that would respond if forced. We have a president who would respond as forced. We haven't had this chance in decades. Under George W., of course, we had no chance for change. Under Bill Clinton, we really had no chance. Bush the first, Ronnie Reagan. You really got to go back to Lyndon Johnson to see any chance for change. You don't get many chances in a lifetime like this. Our battles for the last 40 years or so have been on the defensive, trying to prevent the worst from happening. But now, today, progressives can be on the offensive because our issues are at least on the table: health care, labor reform, climate change, etc. But we have got to be much more aggressive. You know, the late great Southern humorist Louis Grizzard explained something that we in the South have long known to be true, and that is that there's a great big difference between being naked and being naked. Naked means you have no clothes on. Naked, that means you have no clothes on and you are up to something. We have got to get naked. Our leaders might be weak, but we are not. And it is our responsibility to demand more from them. We have to be loud enough for them to hear us and hot enough for them to feel it. We've got to vote against them when they do not stand for us. We have to run against them, those blue dog Democrats. Why are we saving blue dog Democrats who vote like Republicans? We have to take them on in the primaries. And some say, oh, well, some say, oh, well, it's you know, we can't do that. I mean, the politics, that's tough. Well, let me tell you about Dallas, Texas. Not a hotbed of left-wing activism, right? Dallas, Texas, in 2006, Democrats had no county office holders, no judges, no county treasurer, etc., none of them. But a group there got together, funded, brought in some expertise, and recruited candidates and went door to door in a campaign. And after the 2006 elections, Democrats held every county office in Dallas County. We have a lesbian Latina who is sheriff of Dallas County. The point being that we can do it. Obama himself said, I'm not the change, you are. And he's right about that. And in fact, he said it again just before the inauguration, January 16th. Obama said, we've got 10 million people out there who are involved actively in our campaign. I don't want them to just sit around waiting for me to do something. I want them to be pushing their agendas. He asked for it. That's us. We've got to push our agenda. We can't just sit there. And I think we can begin with at least the public option. I mean, just demand that that they not abandon that. We have time to make that happen. We've got some other public financing of our elections, other things that have been talked about here. We have to be very forceful. We can't just be back in that lazy boy. I think we're in a 1933 moment when Franklin Roosevelt took office, and he was kind of slow getting some things going too. And Sidney Hillman, a great labor leader, went to sit down with him and talk about poverty. And Roosevelt wasn't doing enough on poverty. He said, Mr. President, you've got to do this and that and that. And then Roosevelt interrupted and said, I agree with you. I want to do it. Now make me do it. And that's our challenge. He did it because the people made him do it. They did rise up. They did organize. They did bring their power to bear. And we're in exactly that same situation now, I think. I'll leave you with this thought. It's from a great woman, Mary Ellen Lees, known as the Kansas Pythoness back in the 1870s, 1880s, because of the power of her tongue. She was a great populist orator, traveled all over the country, rallying hard-hit farmers who were being run over by the railroad monopolies and bankers of the day. And she said to them, corn farmers out in the prairie land, she said to them, it's time to raise less corn and more hell. Let's do that together. Thanks so much for what you're doing. Go get them.